what we are supposed to make out as far as a government's policy is concerned or government's policies are concerned, right? Now, with that respect, what I will do, I will cite you an example, and then I will move on to elaborate upon, or I will, I will explain Laswell's and Brewer's idea, Laswell's and Brewer's idea on public policy. Now, the instance I'm sharing with you is part of the book that was written by Rajesh Chakrabarti and Kaushiki Sanyal in 2018 or 2017. I think that's a very, very recent book, right? And the instance they have taken to start their book is from Bihar. So this in the preface that they have included the experience of policy with respect to the decisions of the political executive in order to bring about significant changes in overall conditions of governance. So that is where this instance is not only indicative, but it is also helpful in terms of making us understanding that how policies matter in governance, number one, and number two, how policies are related to state and government. Now, why I'm emphasizing upon this point, that will come later in the form of explanations, but the instance that you find in the book, right, that is from from 2005, and the authors say that in 2005 when Nitish Kumar he came to power, he was trying to understand that how significant changes can be made wherein the conditions in Bihar would improve on every front. So, he was trying to diagnose the problem. He was trying to understand the problem, that where actually problems lie. And in his understanding, the problem primarily was linked to the law and order situation in Bihar. Now, his understanding of the problem might have been based on his own, calculation of the existing conditions or existing facts, right? Wherein he might have reached at a conclusion that once law and order situation improves in Bihar, then development on other fronts would take place, meaning that people can actually get the benefit of government's policies in economic or in development fields as well. So for that, the first problem in his understanding that was required to be addressed was the problem of law and order. And it is in that respect that he called the then senior police official in Bihar, that was Mr. Abhayananda, right? Abhayananda. And he discussed the problem with him, and he asked that what all Abhayananda required in order to make the law and order situation better. And he offered him every help. Right? See, what are the likely conclusions, or what are the likely explanations which we can draw as policy analysts, that we can come to at the later part of the debate, right? That we can come to at the later part of the debate. But the point I'm trying to highlight, that first, the political executive, it has diagnosed the existing conditions, and based on his understanding, he arrives at the identification of a problem, right? And in his understanding, the problem which was predominant in Bihar at that point of time was the law and order situation. Okay, and for that, he identified the right person who would help him addressing this problem, right? So, the actors who would be involved in not only developing a policy in order to address the law and order problem, but in executing the policies as well. Now, as I was trying to explain that Abhayananda was offered every kind of help, right from the toughest law to the financial assistance, more personal, and the latest weapons or arms which the police might need in order to tackle the law and order problem. Now, significantly see how the assessment of the condition that matters when you actually not only devise policies but when you decide on a course of action as well. That is where Abhayananda, he possibly he made it clear to the then leadership that what actually was required was non-interference from the political or vested political interests. So this is what this is what in his understanding was the problem, because in his understanding the actual problem was that the antisocial elements or the people who were actually creating the law and order problem, they had some kind of political protection, and it was primarily due to that the law and order situation in Bihar was in a very bad condition. And since law and order was not in a good condition, so that is where any development would be very difficult or would be near impossible to be implemented in Bihar, or any policy which would aim at bringing about development in Bihar would be near impossible. Now, the course of action that Abhayanand decides would be on two fronts, right? So, in his understanding, the laws at that point of time, they were good enough to tackle the problems of law and order. So, the actual problem was not the absence of an effective law, right? So, what he understood that actually the problem lied, as I told you, on two fronts. Number one, in terms of speedy trials, because in his understanding the conviction rate at that point of time was abysmally low. So the trials, they would take a long time and no one would be convicted for their offenses. So that is what would become a kind of uh, you know uh, some encouragement for the people who actually took law and orders in their hands, right? So first thing he would emphasize upon that there should be speedy trials and the people should be brought to the books for their wrong deeds. So that is one, right? And second, he tried to address the problem of movement of illegal arms in the state. So in his understanding, if the problem of illegal arms or illicit arms would be tackled, then the problem of law and order would naturally be controlled. So he acted on these two fronts, right? So as far as the course of action would be concerned, he would praise for speedy trials wherein there would be higher conviction rates, meaning that now he wanted to send a clear message to the wrongdoers that for anything wrong which they would do, they are not liable to be put behind the bars alone, but they would be convicted in a very speedy manner, right? So that's what was the message which he wanted to send to the society as well as to the wrongdoers, meaning that for wrongdoings you would be punished and you cannot escape punishment for anything wrong what you do, especially on the law and order front.